Hello students, welcome to this online course of engineering mechanics. So today we are going to see one more problem on the same topic. So the question is, a main canal which offtakes from a storage reservoir has to irrigate crops in a certain country having 3 seasons in a year. Data for the irrigated crops is given. So this is the data. First, name of crop, crop period, area to be irrigated in hectares, duty at the head of the main canal in hectare per cubic. So first is sugarcane. Sugarcane, the crop period is 280. So sugarcane is we are harvesting it for full year, almost full year it is there. Area to be irrigated is 315 hectares and the duty is 630 hectare per cubic. Overlap for sugarcane in hot weather. So it is 100 days. So this is the overlapping of sugarcane. So area to be irrigated is only 70 and duty is same. Now jowar, which is a rabi crop having base period 120, area to be irrigated is 4800 and the duty at the head of the main canal is 1600. Bajri is a monsoon crop having base period 120, area to be irrigated is 5600 having duty at the head of the main canal as 2800 hectare per cubic. And the vegetables which are cropped during hot season having base period of 120 days, area to be irrigated for these are 350 hectares and the duty at the head of the main canal is 700 hectare per cubic. So what is the question? Find the discharge requires at the head of the main canal, taking time factor for the main canal as 0.7. So what should be the idea for proceeding this? So we have to design we will be designing a single canal. We are not going to design canal for different seasons. There will be only single canal. So what we have to check? We have to check the various combination of the crops throughout the year depending upon their season. So this hot season and the sugarcane in hot weather will be clubbed together. So in hot season these are there. Sugarcane will be present in all the seasons. So sugarcane and jowar, sugarcane and bajri. So we have to check the discharge required for these combinations and the maximum discharge which is coming. The canal is to be designed for that discharge. So let us solve it. So first is water required for sugarcane. It is a whole year process. So 315 is the area and 630 is the duty. So this is half 0.5 cubic. Water required for overlap sugarcane. So we are just dividing the respective areas by their duty. So 70 by 630, it is coming out to be 1 by 9 is 0.11. Same for jowar, it is 3 cubic. For bajri it is 2 cubic and for vegetables it is 0.50 cubic. Now we have to check the various combinations. So the total water required in each season. So this is for various crops and now we have to see for each season how much water is required. So in hot season this sugarcane is there and the vegetables are there. Plus this sugarcane is for whole year, so 0.5. This sugarcane which is overlapping with hot season 0.11 and this is for vegetables in hot season they are being cropped. So this is 0.5, 0.51 and 0.11 is 1.11 cubic. Second combination will be in monsoon season. So monsoon crop is only bajri and sugarcane. So 2 plus 0.5, 2.5, and in rabi season it is sugarcane and this jowar, that is 3. So 0.3 plus 3, 0.5 plus 3, it is 3.5. So These are for various seasons, so we have to design for the maximum. So it is evident that the maximum water is required in Rabi season, that is equal to 3.5 cubic. But we have been provided by time factor. Time factor is 0.7, so this will be divided by time factor and we will be getting full supply discharge based on the average demand or duty. So 3.5 upon 0.7 is 5 cubic. So the canal will be designed for 5 cubic. If the overall volume is being asked, so what we will be doing, we will be multiplying this with the time. Okay, respective all the waters, all the discharges with their time, the base period in days. So after adding, we will be getting amount of water in meter cube or any other unit. So now let us move to a very important topic of sediment transport, which is the basis of canal design. So before designing of canal or before entering into the various theories provided for canal design, we have to understand what is this sediment transport, because main aim is the canal is being designed to pass the sediment load which is being entering into the canal. So for that we have to understand what is this sediment transport. Clear? So whenever water flows in a channel, natural or artificial, it tries to score its surface. So water is there, water will try to score the bed of the channel. Clear? Silt or gravel or even larger boulders are detached from the bed or side of the channel. So if the velocity is very high, velocity of water is very high, so what is going to happen? The particles which are attached to the bed and the side. So generally the canal looks like this trapezoidal canal. So this is bed, this is side slope. So due to the eddies, what is going to happen? The material is going to be scored and it will be flowing with the water. These detached particles are swept downstream by the moving water. This phenomenon is known as sediment transport. Clear? So how this sediment is being, we have to transport a sediment, and sediment is coming from the water which is scoring the bed and the side slope. So now let us see what is the importance of this sediment transport, why it is important. The phenomenon of sediment transport causes large scale scoring and siltation of irrigation canals, thereby increasing their maintenance. So the sediment will be in continuous process of siltation and scoring. Scoring means to score the bed material and side material, and silting is if the velocity is slow, very low. So what is going to happen? Due to gravity, the particles will try to settle down. So this process is termed as siltation. Both the processes are problematic, because if siltation is there, the discharge carrying capacity is going to be reduced, and if scoring is there, then it is problematic for the flow itself. So both the processes are going to increase the maintenance cost. Many poorly designed artificial channels gets silted up so badly that they soon become inoperable, causing huge economic loss to public exchequers. So these canals are being prepared by government itself, and government is using the public money. So some of the these type of canals, due to huge siltation, have become inoperable. Why? Because they are not able to fulfill the purpose for which they were constructed. The artificial channels should therefore be properly designed and should not fail to carry the sediment load admitted at the canal headwork. So siltation means that canal is not able to carry that load. So we have to take care, like the canal should be transporting whatever type of sediment is coming inside, then only the purpose is being fulfilled. Let us see the second point. The design and execution of a flood control scheme is chiefly governed by the peak flood levels. So whatever canals are also helpful during the flood periods to escaping the huge amount of water through them. So these should be designed for this full peak flood level. So the design criteria is peak flood level for flood if it is being used for flood control scheme, which in turn depend upon the score and deposition of sediment. Flood is also is the flood is also being caused by these. During this flooding, siltation and scoring is a important parameter. So firstly, the bed levels may change by direct scoring or deposition of sediment. So both the processes are going to change the depth of flow. Okay, if scoring is there, so this is our normal bed level. Scoring is, if it is there, something like this is going to happen. So it is changing the bed level. If siltation is there, so the silt is going to deposit on the bed and the depth is going to reduce. So both the processes are going to change the depth of flow and thereby changing the flood level. So if depth is going to change, so flood level is also going to change. Now secondly, the scoring and silting on the river banks may create sharp and irregular curves which increases the flow resistance of the channel and thereby raising the flood levels for the same discharge. Clear? So river banks are being in trouble due to these siltation and scoring, and as a result some sharp and irregular curves can be developed or might be developed, which increases the flow resistance, and it is not good for the canal design. Third is silting of reservoirs and rivers in another important aspect of sediment transport. In the silting in the reservoir where we are storing the water, it's also important aspect in sediment transport. Why? Because the storage capacity of the reservoir is reduced by its silting. If silting is there, the storage capacity is going to decrease, thereby reducing its use and life. Natural rivers used for navigation are frequently silted up, reducing the clear depth required for navigation. So sediment deposited in these rivers and harbors may often require costly dredgings. So these are some problems arising if the canal is not able to transport the sediment coming into it properly. So this canal should pass whatever canal is being entering at the head for its proper operation. So sediment transport does poses numerous problems and is a subject of great importance. So you have seen how it is going to create many problems and it possesses enough potential for further research and development. So if you wish to do your research like MTech or PhD, so if you are interested in this water resources, so you can explore this area of sediment transport, because very less work has been done. But what we can say, the theory which we are using is not very much reliable. So factor of safety is very huge. That is not good for the economy of the structure. Now let us see what is a sediment load. The sediment in a canal is a burden to be borne by the flowing water and is therefore designated as sediment load. So this sediment is a sort of burden for that canal because it has to pass it. So it is being termed as sediment load. The sediment may move in water either as bed load or as suspended load. So if that sediment is attached to the bed, then it will be termed as bed load, or if it is in suspension, then it will be termed as suspended load. Bed load is that in which the sediment moves along the bed with occasional jumps into the channel. So some undulations is being observed during the analysis of bed load. While the suspended load is one in which the material is maintained in suspension due to turbulence of the flowing water. So the suspended load will be in suspension throughout its movement. So let us try to understand what is the mechanics of the sediment transport. For the analysis, we have to be very careful of the mechanics of this sediment transport. So in the study of mechanics of sediment transport, we will throughout assume that the soil is incoherent. So in the soil mechanics or geotechnical engineering, you will be learning or studying, or you might have learned about few types of soil. Some are cohesive soil, some are cohesionless soil. So cohesionless soil is same as incoherent. So by incoherent soil, we mean that there is no cohesive force between the particles. So there are two types of forces, cohesion force and adhesion force. If the particles are of same nature, so the force between the same type of particle is termed as cohesion, and the force of attraction between two different types of particles is termed as adhesion. So by incoherent soil, we mean that there is no cohesive force between the particles, or in other words, C is 0. C is cohesion, so cohesion is 0. Such as in sands or gravels. So sands and gravels are cohesionless soils. So in those soils, coherent force or cohesive force is 0. Why we are assuming this? Because most of our river beds are made up of sands and gravels. So we can easily say that the force of cohesion force is 0, because most of the river beds are made up of sands and gravels, and hence we confine ourselves to the mechanism of movement of such soil only. Though cohesive clays etc. are also sometimes met with, but no systematic study upon such soil has been undertaken, and only very little work has been done in that direction. So whatever work has been done is being done for the sands and gravels. Why? Because the analysis has become very easy the moment you are assuming C is equal to 0, because no C terms are coming to be there, and C is high for cohesive clays, but we can neglect easily because the portion is very less. Clear? By assuming the soil to be incoherent, each soil grain can be studied individually, because there is no, every particle is separated, no attraction is there, so single particles can be analyzed individually. The basic mechanism behind the phenomena of sediment transport is the drag force exerted by water or fluid in the direction of flow on the channel bed. This force, which is nothing but a pull of water on the wetted area, is known as tractive force, shear force, or drag force. So we have to analyze, we have to see, we have to study about these three forces, but in your syllabus this portion is not that relevant. So just I am giving you introduction type of thing, so that it will be easy for you to understand the various theories which we are going to discuss. Now let us see how we are going to design a stable channel in India, because this irrigation, what we are going to study is will be focusing on the stable channels in India only. As long the average shear stress acting on the boundary of an alluvial channel is less than the critical shear stress. So the critical shear stress is the disturbing force, and the restoring force is average shear stress acting on the boundary. So if it is greater than the critical shear stress, the channel shape remains unchanged, and hence the channel can be considered of rigid boundary. Why rigid? Because the shape is not going to be changed, and all the sediment will be transported because of this condition. Critical shear is greater than the average shear. The resistance equations, such as those given by Chase's formula and Manning's formula, which we have studied in the hydraulic engineering, remains well applicable to such channels. If tau naught is less than tau c, means the average shear is less than critical shear, then we can easily apply Chase's formula and Manning's formula. However, as soon as the sediment movement start, undulation develops on the bed, which increases the boundary resistance of the channel. Beside this, some energy is required to move the grains. Okay. The suspended load carried due to turbulence in the flow further affects the resistance of the alluvial streams. Okay. So that due to turbulence there will be resistance to the flow. All these factors render the evaluation of resistance of alluvial streams to be a very complex problem. So it seems very easy while I'm reading and while I'm dictating, and you are saying okay, this is fine, but when you are going to do the actual calculation which is out of scope of your syllabus, then you will be seeing these all the things to club together, and it will be giving you a very complex equations. So that's why it is a very complex problem, and the complexity further increases if one includes the effect of channel shape, non-uniformity of sediment size, discharge variation, and other such factors. So this problem still is in itself, it is very complex, and if you are going to introduce so much variables such as these things, so it will be becoming very complex. So we will be facing a very big problem. We are not be going to solve the problem, we will be making our problem complex only. None of the resistance equation developed so far takes all these factors into account. So we have to solve the problem. For that we are having very limited resistance equation, and these equations are based on certain assumptions, and these factors have not been incorporated for derivation of these resistance equations. So the direct, accurate mathematical solution to the design of channel in alluvial soil is therefore not an easy job, and hence in India, alluvial channels are designed on the basis of hypothetical theories. So these theories are not experimental, these are hypothetical theories given by Kennedy and Lacey. So these were the two very eminent engineers. They are of British origin, so they were working for Kennedy was working in the, I think, UP irrigation department, and Lacey was working in Punjab department, irrigation department. So on the basis of their various work and research, they have come up with the hypothetical theories which are named after them, Kennedy theory and Lacey theory. These theories are based on experiments and experience gained on the existing channels over the past many years. Okay, so on the basis of experiments and while working on the various channels, they have gained various experiences, and these theories are based on those experiments and experiences only. So these are hypothetical theories, they are not realistic theories. So in the next lecture we are going to see these theories. So this is all for today. Thank you.